It was one of those rare calm days when everything seemed to go smoothly until it didn't. My noon client meeting had been canceled, which left me with a few unexpected hours free. Instead of heading back to the office or *ling time at a coffee shop like I usually did, I decided to do something nice for Brianna. She'd mentioned earlier in the week how much she'd been craving the almond croissants from Lucille's, that little bakery tucked between the florist and the old movie theater. So I drove across town, parked illegally for 5 minutes, and walked out with a warm bag of her favorites. Just a small gesture. One of those quiet, spontaneous acts of love you do when life gives you a little room. It wasn't her birthday or an anniversary. I wasn't apologizing for anything. I just wanted to see her face light up when I handed them to her. It had been a stressful few weeks, meetings, deadlines, late nights on both ends, and I figured a little sweetness might go a long way. By the time I reached our building, I was even a little excited. I didn't text ahead. I wanted it to be a surprise. But as soon as I opened our front door, something felt off. The air in the apartment was different. Still. Heavy. And not just because it was midday quiet. I stepped inside and immediately saw them, a pair of men's sneakers by the door. They weren't mine. Worn down with scuffs near the toes and a logo I didn't recognize. I stared at them for a long second, brain fumbling for an explanation that didn't immediately spiral. Next to the couch, a navy blue suit jacket was draped over the armrest like someone had just peeled it off. I knew right then this wasn't something I was going to laugh about later. This was something else entirely. I didn't say anything. Didn't call out for her. I just stood there, listening. Water was running. The bathroom door was closed. That was the only sound in the apartment, the steady stream of water like someone was still inside, maybe showering. My grip tightened around the paper bag, warm grease from the croissants seeping slightly into the thin paper. I felt a rush of heat crawl up my neck. My mind tried to reason. Maybe it was her brother. Maybe a coworker stopped by. Maybe this was something completely innocent, something explainable. But then why hadn't she mentioned anyone coming over? And why the suit jacket? Why the shoes placed carefully near the door like their owner had no reason to hide them? I took a step further in, then stopped again. I wanted to be wrong. God, I wanted to be wrong. The bathroom door opened. Brianna stepped out wrapped in a towel, her damp hair twisted up with a clip. She jumped slightly when she saw me. "Oh," she said, blinking, "you're home early." "Meeting got canceled," I replied. I was aiming for neutral, casual even, but it came out flat. My eyes scanned her face, no panic, no guilt. She looked fine. Relaxed even. She smiled, noticing the bag in my hand. "Are those from Lucille's?" "Yeah," I said slowly. "Thought I'd surprise you." She walked over and took the bag from me, pressing a kiss to my cheek. "You're the sweetest. These are amazing." I nodded, still standing near the door, eyes flicking again to the sneakers and jacket. She didn't acknowledge them. "You have company?" I asked carefully. She didn't miss a beat. "Yeah, my cousin Marcus. He's in town for some sales thing. Had an early flight, wanted to rinse off before heading to his hotel." Marcus. The name took a second to land. I vaguely remembered her mentioning him once at Thanksgiving a couple years back, a cousin from Boston, maybe? I wasn't sure. I hadn't even known they kept in touch. "Huh," I said, not moving. "Didn't know he was visiting." "Neither did I," she replied, opening the bag and pulling out a croissant. "He texted this morning. I told him he could swing by if he needed to regroup before heading out." She took a bite and smiled. Still warm. "You really are the best." There was something unnerving about how casual she was being. Like nothing about this moment was strange. Like this situation, me walking in unannounced to find men's shoes and a suit jacket and her stepping out of the bathroom midday was just an everyday thing. I glanced toward the hallway. "He's still here." She nodded, chewing. "Yeah, just finishing up. You like him?" "Haven't seen him in forever." I gave a tight smile and sat on the arm of the couch, my legs bouncing slightly. I could feel my pulse in my temples. "You said he's heading to a hotel?" "Yep." She wiped her mouth with a napkin. "Didn't want to be gross from the flight, so he came here first. I figured it'd be no big deal." "No big deal?" I didn't reply. Just nodded again. A few minutes later, the bathroom door opened again and a man stepped out, tall, clean-shaven, maybe early 30s. Athletic build. He was buttoning the cuffs of a crisp white shirt. His tie was draped around his neck like a scarf. "Oh, hey," he said, looking mildly surprised to see me. Brianna stepped in quickly. "Marcus, this is Logan." "Logan, Marcus." He smiled and held out a hand. "Hey man, sorry for the surprise drop-in. Hope it's cool." I stood slowly and shook his hand. His grip was firm, confident. Yeah, no problem. His eyes flicked to the bag of pastries on the counter. Those from Lucille's? I nodded. Nice. Love that place. He turned back to Brianna. Thanks again for letting me use the shower. I owe you. No problem, she said breezily. You want me to call you a ride? Already ordered one, he said, picking up his jacket and slipping it on with a practiced motion. It's downstairs. He turned to me again. Nice meeting you, Logan. You too, I said. He walked out without looking back. As the door shut behind him, Brianna started picking at another croissant. You okay? She asked after a second. I looked at her for a long beat. Yeah, just surprised is all. She nodded. Sorry. I would have mentioned it if I'd known sooner. It was kind of a last-minute thing. I gave a slow nod. No worries. She leaned against the counter, still chewing, then gave me a little smile. You're being quiet. I shrugged. Long morning. I didn't say anything more. I didn't ask any of the 100 questions running through my head. I didn't ask why she'd never mentioned Marcus flying in. Why he felt comfortable enough to strip down and shower in our apartment. Why she hadn't called me or texted or left some kind of heads up. I didn't say anything about how weird it was that she looked completely calm, borderline cheerful. Instead, I made myself a coffee, sat at the table, and listened as she started talking about the weekend. Brunch plans with her friend Lexi. Maybe catching a movie Sunday night. She was already moving past the moment. Already erasing it from reality. But I wasn't. I watched her closely as she talked. Noticed how she kept glancing at her phone. How she leaned slightly away from me when I reached for the sugar. How she never asked about my meeting or why I had come home early. Something shifted inside me that afternoon. Subtly, like a tremor under the floor. You don't always hear the first crack. Sometimes you feel it. A silence you can't explain. A smile that doesn't quite reach. A pair of shoes that don't belong. I didn't accuse her. Didn't demand answers. But in that silence, something inside me started paying attention. Closer than ever before. After that day, I started noticing things. Little things at first, the kind that don't seem worth mentioning. The kind you brush off with a quiet laugh or a rational explanation. But once you start paying attention, once something inside you wakes up and stops taking things at face value, it's hard to go back to sleep. The morning after Marcus visited, I asked Brianna if she had plans that weekend. She said she was heading to the mountains with friends, Lexi, Mari, and a couple of coworkers from her office. A girls' getaway, she said. They'd rented a cabin with a hot tub and no Wi-Fi. Just a detox weekend, she called it. Sounds fun, I said. But that night, when she packed, I noticed something off. She was careful, methodical, more so than usual. I watched her fold clothes I didn't recognize. A black dress, something silky with thin straps, heels she hadn't worn in over a year. I asked, casually, "You guys dressing up to go hiking?" She laughed too easily. "It's not all hiking. We might go out one night." "To where?" She blinked. "I don't know, whatever's around." The cabin was up near Elk River, middle of nowhere. I'd been there once. The only nightlife I remembered was a diner that closed by 8 and a gas station that sold bait and firewood. Still, I didn't press. I wasn't ready to be the guy who accuses his wife of lying without proof. That's a hard role to walk back from if you're wrong. When she left Friday morning, she kissed me like nothing was wrong, told me she loved me, promised to bring back cinnamon bark tea from the general store, the kind I used to like. Then she was gone. I tried to distract myself that weekend. Met up with a buddy for lunch, caught up on work. But something kept pulling at me. A quiet tension, like a string wrapped tight around my chest. I checked her social media, nothing. No photos, no updates. Brianna usually posted pictures of her trips, even just snaps *TS. Food, trees, faces. This time there was nothing. I texted her Saturday night. "How's the cabin?" No response. I waited an hour, then another. At 11:38, she finally replied, "Sorry babe, no signal up here, just got your text. Everything's great. Love you." 3 exclamation marks. I stared at it for a while. Something about that message didn't feel like her. It was too polished, too excited. Brianna didn't use multiple exclamation points. She was the type to send a thumbs up or a single red heart if she was distracted. The tone was off, too curated. She came home Sunday evening, hair curled, makeup still faintly visible, like she tried to wash it off but missed a few spots. I asked her how the trip went. She gave me vague stories. Something about a bear sighting, how Lexi got drunk and nearly fell into a creek. I asked if she had any photos. Ugh, she said. Lexi has most of them. I didn't even take my phone half the time. She always took her phone. I nodded, didn't push. The next weekend, she was out again. Another trip, this time a wellness retreat with coworkers. They had booked a hotel downtown, apparently attending some kind of yoga and self-development workshop. She sent me a link to a website with stock images of smiling people in white robes and soft focus lighting. I didn't believe her. That Saturday, I drove past the hotel around 10 p.m. It was only 20 minutes from our place. Her name wasn't on the room registry. I tried the parking lot next. No sign of her car. I circled twice. I didn't call. I didn't text. When she came home Sunday afternoon, she was quiet. Said the retreat was transformational but exhausting. I asked her what kind of sessions they had. She blinked. Oh, like breath work, vision board stuff, group reflection. Her words sounded like things she'd picked up from the flyer, not from actually being there. I started writing things down after that. I opened a note on my phone and called it inventory. Unfamiliar sneakers, size 11. Navy pinstripe jacket. Marcus, cousin. Never introduced before. Cabin trip, no signal, no photos. Retreat hotel not registered. New perfume. Noticed last Thursday. Not one I've bought her. Coffee cup in the car. Chase written on the side. That one had stuck with me. She said a coworker left it behind. But she'd been alone that day. It wasn't just one thing. It was all the things. Brianna's routines had shifted in small but noticeable ways. Her gym bag was always packed now, but I never saw her wear anything sweaty when she got home. She took more showers at odd times. She kept her phone face down, locked with a new passcode she hadn't told me. I caught her once deleting a text thread, pausing mid-swipe when she noticed me walking by. She laughed it off, said it was just a meme thread that got too weird, that she didn't want me to think her coworkers were perverts. The way she smiled when she said it, too rehearsed. By midweek, I started waking up earlier. I'd lie there before my alarm, watching her get ready, noticing how she carefully applied lip gloss even when she said she was just going to the office to catch up on spreadsheets. How she started using a new shampoo. How she carried herself differently. Lighter. Like someone who knew they had a secret worth smiling about. The worst part? She still acted like everything was fine. Still kissed me goodbye. Still asked what I wanted for dinner. Still told me she missed me when I worked late. But I didn't feel missed. I felt managed. Handled. One night, I woke up and found her missing from bed. I checked the kitchen, the living room, nothing. Then I heard her voice in the hallway, soft and hushed. She was on the phone. I stayed behind the corner, not close enough to hear every word, but enough to catch one. Chase. She laughed. Said something about next time being slower. Then she whispered, I can't talk right now, and hung up. When she walked back to bed, I pretended to be asleep. I wanted to confront her. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her phone and demand she explain everything. But I didn't. Not yet. Because somewhere deep down, I still wanted to be wrong. I didn't want to become the man who lost trust in his wife. I didn't want to be the guy who suspected every movement, every silence, every glance. I didn't want to be the man whose marriage had quietly rotted while he thought things were fine. But that's exactly who I was becoming. I was no longer living with Brianna. I was watching her, like a detective stuck in a case with no smoking G***N. Just shadows and contradictions and instincts that wouldn't shut up. Every word she said felt layered. Every smile had an edge. Every trip, every retreat, every new piece of clothing, every schedule shift. It all stacked on top of itself until it formed a shape I couldn't ignore. This wasn't just distance. It was something else. Something calculated. And I was no longer asking if something was wrong. I was asking when it would break. I didn't find it because I was looking for it. That's what stuck with me most. It was a Saturday afternoon, gray and damp, one of those spring days that never quite decides whether it wants to rain or just threaten to. I was in the basement, sorting through old boxes because I'd promised Brianna I'd finally get rid of the junk down there. "We're not in college anymore," she'd said with a smirk. "No one needs a bin full of tangled chargers and broken headphones." So I dug in. There were old moving boxes we hadn't opened since the year we bought the house. Stuff from college, old clothes, tools I forgot I owned. A few hours in, I pulled out a beat-up gray backpack from under a shelf. One I barely recognized. Zippers frayed. Dusty. Like it hadn't seen daylight in years. At first, I thought it was mine. Maybe something I'd used during grad school. But when I opened it, the contents said otherwise. Inside was a phone. Not one of ours. Not the one Brianna carried everywhere. This one was older. Not ancient, but definitely not her current model. The battery indicator was at 4%. I didn't think it would even turn on. But curiosity got the better of me. When the screen lit up, I froze. There was no passcode. The phone unlocked with a single swipe, revealing a wallpaper I didn't recognize. Some abstract art thing, muted pinks and reds. A few notifications at the top. And messages. Dozens of them. The top conversation was with a contact named Chase Redheart. I hesitated for maybe 2 seconds, then tapped it. The thread opened into a scrolling wall of texts, photos, heart emojis, and messages that made my stomach drop. "Miss you already. Last night was incredible. Still can't get that shower out of my head. Booked the room again for the 12th, same hotel. You looked so good in that coat. Can't wait to peel it off again." Photos followed. Some innocent, her smiling over drinks, selfies with sunflower and some not. One caught me off guard. It was Brianna in a beige trench coat, standing in front of a hotel mirror. The coat was tied loose at the waist, one leg bent, her thigh visible beneath the edge. Her expression was soft, flirtatious. Not the kind of look she ever gave me anymore. The caption read, "On my way up, face blowing a kiss." It was time-stamped from 3 weeks ago. I scrolled slowly at first, then faster. The messages stretched back months. Long, late-night conversations. Weekend plans. A thread from Christmas where he said he hated pretending she was just a coworker at the office party. Another from New Year's Eve. "Wish I could kiss you at midnight." Me too. He fell asleep on the couch. Typical. "I'm thinking about you." That's what I was now. Placeholder. A sleepwalker. The guy who didn't notice his wife building an entire second life under the same roof. I kept reading. One message caught my attention more than the others. "You said you'd talk to him by April. Please don't keep me waiting." April. That was now. That was this week. So that was the plan? End things cleanly with me and pivot straight into whatever this was? A soft handoff of lives? I stood there in the basement, the smell of mildew thick in the air, holding that phone like it was made of glass and fire. I wasn't angry, not yet. Not exactly. What I felt was something worse. Confirmation. The quiet part of me, the one that had been whispering doubts in the back of my mind for weeks, was now screaming. It had been right all along. Brianna wasn't confused. She wasn't lost. She wasn't going through a phase or seeking clarity. She was gone. Not physically, not yet. But emotionally, mentally, she'd left months ago. I set the backpack down and walked upstairs with the phone in my pocket. She was in the kitchen, making tea, humming softly to herself. When she saw me, she smiled. That same practiced, easy smile. "You find anything worth keeping?" she asked. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something different. A performer. A stranger. Someone who could lie straight to my face without blinking. "Nah," I said, setting a box on the counter. "Mostly just junk." She nodded. "Well, good. We could use the space." Later that night, while she was in the shower, I backed everything up. The photos. The messages. I uploaded it all to a cloud drive and encrypted it with a password she wouldn't guess. Then I took the phone, powered it down, and slipped it back into the backpack. Not because I wanted to pretend I hadn't found it. Because I needed time. Time to figure out what came next. I couldn't confront her. Not yet. I knew myself well enough to know that if I exploded now, if I let the betrayal hit the surface without a plan, I'd regret it. I'd say things that would muddy the waters. She'd deny it, deflect, cry, apologize, maybe even flip it back on me. That's how these things go. I've seen it before, and I didn't want drama. I wanted clarity. So I waited, watched, took notes. That week, I started noticing every phone call she took in the other room, every locked screen she turned away from me, every too long trip to run errands. Every morning she smiled like nothing was wrong. Every night she kissed me goodnight, while someone else's name lived in her phone like a heartbeat. She was a master of control. That's what made it all so insidious. If I hadn't found that phone, I might have doubted myself forever. Instead, I had proof. Not just of the cheating, but of the intention behind it. She didn't trip and fall into this man's arms. She built a staircase, step by step, and walked herself into his life with her eyes wide open. I'd always thought cheating was messy, chaotic, full of guilt and impulse. But Brianna was different. She was organized, precise. She planned things. She booked hotel rooms under aliases. She created fake group texts to cover her weekends. She saved receipts from restaurants she hadn't eaten at. I saw it all in that phone, in the photos and *TS she never deleted. She wasn't waiting to figure out if she wanted to leave me. She was waiting for the cleanest time to do it. And the thought that she was still in my house, sleeping in my bed, cooking dinner, and texting him goodnight while I sat 6 feet away, it made something in me go cold. Not angry. Not hurt. Just numb. I was done giving her the benefit of the doubt. Done assuming good intentions. Done believing we were still on the same side. Because we weren't. She was on a different team now. And I was her camouflage. I didn't ask questions. I didn't make accusations. I didn't let on that anything had changed, not even the slightest flicker of suspicion in my voice. That was the hardest part. Pretending. But after finding the second phone and reading every message, seeing every picture, I understood that confrontation wouldn't serve me. Not anymore. I wasn't looking for explanations. I didn't want apologies. I wasn't interested in whatever script she might give me if I laid the evidence on the table and asked her to explain it away. I already had what I needed, the truth. So I became someone else. The version of me that used to hope, the man who wanted to believe in coincidences and explanations and wild trust. He went quiet. In his place, I became methodical, precise, intentional. I started preparing. First, I backed up everything. Not just the contents of that phone. I exported every photo, every video, every flirtatious message she'd sent to Chase, and more importantly, the timestamps. I cross-referenced them with the dates she'd told me she was with Lexi, or at work late, or at that breathwork retreat. I started building a timeline. It was airtight. She had built her alibi with care, but not enough to cover everything. She hadn't expected to be audited. Next came the finances. I opened a new checking account in my name only. Quietly moved my direct deposit there. Then I opened a secure digital vault, uploaded the evidence, and wrote a full chronological record of everything I'd uncovered for my lawyer. Not for Brianna. Not for any fight. Just for documentation. That same week, I found a new apartment. It was a one-bedroom loft not far from work. Exposed brick. Clean light. Nothing special, but it felt like clarity, a place untouched by lies. I paid the deposit. I signed the lease. But I didn't move in yet. Not until I was ready to vanish from the shared life we pretended to still be living. Back home, I acted normal. I made dinner. Laughed at her jokes. Asked about her day like I used to. She didn't notice anything. If anything, she looked relieved, like she thought whatever rift had been growing between us had quietly healed itself. She smiled more. Touched my arm when she talked. Sent me memes again. I knew why. She was building an exit. Preparing her version of the story. Polishing her narrative. Hoping to rewrite the final stretch of our marriage in a way that would leave her less guilty and more misunderstood. If I confronted her now, I'd be giving her that. I'd be giving her the chance to play innocent, or worse, to make me the villain. So I waited. Studied her. One night, she left her laptop open while she made tea. I sat down beside it. Didn't open any new tabs, just looked at the search bar. How to divide assets in divorce. Can you still get alimony if you cheat? Best way to tell your spouse you're unhappy. She was planning, but she didn't realize I'd already beaten her to it. Over the next 2 weeks, I began extracting myself from our life. One piece at a time. I canceled our joint streaming accounts, transferred my name off our shared memberships. I called the gym and changed my billing info. I used a different grocery store, stopped using our home Wi-Fi for anything sensitive. I created distance. Emotionally, too. I stopped sharing, stopped asking about her day, stopped talking about the future. I let her talk, let her paint her version of things, but I didn't give her any new material. No hopes, no disappointments, no vulnerabilities she could use later to twist the story. She was cheating on me, but I wasn't going to be the one who fell apart. That was the only power I still had, narrative control. One night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling while she slept beside me, her breathing slow and even like nothing in the world could reach her. I thought about how many times she'd laid there after coming home from Chase's arms. I thought about how she'd kissed me goodnight with his taste still on her lips. And still, I said nothing, because silence is armor. And mine was nearly complete. At work, I started scheduling early morning appointments with lawyers. I met 3. All came recommended. All said the same thing. Infidelity, documented clearly and thoroughly, gave me a significant advantage. In our state, marital misconduct still mattered, especially when one party had lied continuously while the other kept a paper trail. I want it clean, I told them. I don't want drama, just a clean exit. But I'm not walking away empty-handed. They nodded, felt cold, calculated. But so was she. During this time, Brianna's behavior became almost eerily cheerful. She cooked more, bought new candles, started talking about a summer vacation, somewhere tropical. We need something to look forward to, she said one night, sipping wine as we sat on the back porch. Just you and me. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for a moment I wondered what kind of mental gymnastics it took to play this role. To cheat on someone, make secret hotel plans, and then sit beside them under string lights talking about booking a flight to Cancun. Sounds nice, I said, and I meant it. Not the vacation, the ending. Soon she started staying later at work again. Big pitch coming, she said. We've got to impress the client. I nodded, didn't ask questions, but I started writing down every departure time, every excuse, every forgot my charger. That took 20 minutes. There was one particular Thursday I remember clearly. She came home in a rush, hair slightly mussed, blouse wrinkled. She kissed me, headed straight for the shower. I walked into the bedroom while she was under the water. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand just once. I didn't pick it up. Didn't need to. I watched the preview banner appear. Chase, still thinking about you. That thing you did in the elevator. Fire. My hand didn't even twitch. I just turned, walked out of the room, and opened the fridge to grab a drink. By that point, I didn't feel heartbreak, or even betrayal. I felt like a documentarian. I was cataloging her behavior, her choices, the subtle ways she disassociated from reality. The way she lied not just to me, but to herself. The way she compartmentalized her life into neat little boxes. One labeled husband, one labeled lover, one labeled future. As if they could all sit on the same shelf and never touch. I wasn't going to yell, or cry, or fall apart. I was going to win, and part of winning meant not telling her I knew. Not yet. I would leave her exactly how she'd left me. Quietly, methodically, and without permission, because I wanted her to feel the absence. To wake up one day and realize that everything she'd thought was guaranteed had slipped through her fingers while she played pretend. No confrontation. No closure. Just a locked door. It came together faster than I expected. Not because I rushed it, but because she did. One Tuesday morning, Brianna forwarded me an invitation to a formal event. Her company was hosting a client appreciation dinner, one of those upscale things where people wore name badges over $1,000 suits and drank wine that tasted like water. The kind of night she usually said was a little boring, but good for networking. What caught my attention wasn't the event itself. It was the guest list attached to the invite. Chase Donnelly, listed as a featured guest. His name right there, typed in bold under his agency's logo. Some consulting firm with a forgettable name but lots of capital letters. He wasn't just attending, he was being celebrated. Client, collaborator, public partner. Of course. She had moved him out of the shadows and into the light. I was no longer just her camouflage. I was now in her way. That was when I decided. No more waiting. No more tracking, documenting, or quietly preparing behind the scenes. This wasn't just about catching her in a lie. I'd done that. This was about taking away the one thing she thought she still had. Control. A friend of mine, Rachel, happened to know one of the event planners. I called in a favor. Asked if there was any way I could attend without going through Brianna. She raised an eyebrow through the phone but didn't ask too many questions. I'll get you a +1 invite. You'll be on the list under a vendor table. But if this is about what I think it is, be careful. I will, I said. I'm not here to cause a scene. That was the truth. I wasn't there for revenge. I wasn't going to throw a drink in anyone's face or scream in the middle of the ballroom. I didn't need to. All I had to do was tell the truth, and let the truth do what it always does when exposed to the light. That night, I wore a suit she'd bought me the year before. Midnight blue. Sharp lapels. She always said it made me look like I knew what I was doing. As I stood in front of the mirror adjusting my tie, I realized I hadn't worn it since our anniversary dinner, the one she left early for a work emergency. Probably the same night she met up with Chase at that hotel downtown. The ballroom was packed when I arrived. Lights low, candles flickering on every table. Waiters moved like ghosts in white gloves, balancing trays of tiny hors d'oeuvres and full glasses of red wine. I stayed near the back at first. Watched. She took the stage about halfway through the evening. My wife, in a sleek black dress with her hair pinned up, laughing like she hadn't burned down a life and called it freedom. She welcomed everyone, thanked clients, complimented the sponsors. She spoke about partnership and integrity. About how much it meant to build real trust in an industry full of smoke and mirrors. It took everything in me not to laugh. Chase was seated 2 rows from the front, beaming up at her. When she finished, he stood and clapped louder than anyone else. A few people turned to look at him. He didn't care. After the speeches, the room dissolved into mingling. Wine glasses clinked. Business cards exchanged hands like poker chips. Brianna moved from group to group, charming, polished. She looked like the woman I married 5 years ago, ambitious, radiant, magnetic. I hadn't seen the version of her in months. Eventually she saw me. Her expression shifted instantly, recognition, followed by confusion, then something harder to place. Not guilt, not panic, irritation. She cut across the room in a straight line, heels clicking like G***fire on the tile floor. What are you doing here? She asked under her breath. I smiled. Didn't you get the invite? Her eyes narrowed. Don't play games, Logan. This is a professional event. Is it? I tilted my head. I thought it was a party. She glanced over her shoulder. We can talk about this later. Not here. No, I said. Here's fine. She blinked. Excuse me. I stepped away from her and walked toward the nearest AV technician, a guy adjusting the projection screen where her slideshow had played earlier. He looked bored, half watching the crowd. Hey, I said. Mind if I borrow your screen for a second? Just need to mirror my device. He blinked. This is only for company media. I pulled out a flash drive. It's company related. I didn't wait for approval. I stepped past the stanchion, plugged in the drive, and mirrored the screen. The first photo that appeared was one I knew she'd recognize immediately, the hotel mirror selfie. The trench coat. Her bare thigh. That same angle. That same smile. The room didn't react at first. Then came the whispers. The next slide was a **T of a text. Chase, you looked incredible tonight. I still can't believe we pulled that off at the Hyatt. You're amazing. Then came the calendar invites. The hotel bookings. The thread where she promised him she'd tell Logan soon. Every slide was proof. Not just of the affair, but of how long she'd let it go on. How deeply she'd lied to everyone, including the people standing in that very room. The crowd noise dropped. Laughter died. People turned. Some looked away. Brianna stood frozen near the table of wine bottles. Her expression blank, pale, and for the first time she had no script, no curated response, no PR polish, no way to spin it. Her boss turned to her slowly, his face a question mark. Across the room, Chase stood up. His mouth moved, but I couldn't hear what he said. One of the senior partners stepped between him and a group of clients. Someone whispered into a phone, clearly calling security. And me? I just stepped back. I didn't say a word. I didn't yell. I didn't look at her again. I walked out through the ballroom doors into the cool night and kept going. By the time she found her voice, I was already gone. The fallout was immediate. Brianna's phone stopped ringing. Her work email, once buzzing with praise, fell silent. Chase resigned 2 days after the dinner. She was suspended pending review, but by Friday, her name was gone from the website. Friends she once bragged about ghosted her. Even Lexi didn't reply when she reached out. She tried me next, texts, voicemails, even standing outside my new office one afternoon. I didn't respond. Not once. I shut down our joint accounts, ended the lease, and erased every shared password. It was like watching a structure implode in slow motion, not with fire, but with silence. The apartment was mine alone now. I filled it with different things, light, quiet, intention. I tossed out our plates, our rugs, even the coffee table we picked together. I ran more. Took my camera outside again. The days grew longer, brighter. One afternoon, I saw her across the street, standing outside our old place. She looked thinner. Faded. Our eyes met. I didn't wave. I didn't stop. I just kept walking. Not with bitterness, just freedom. She had burned everything down. I simply chose not to stand in the ashes.